Hey guys, I'm Blake. Welcome to BM Sculptures. Today I'm going to show you how I made this one-of-a-kind bear sculpture. Let's get right into it. Alright, we're going to start this sculpture off by milling up a ton of wood. Here I'm going to be using white oak, walnut, mahogany, poplar, redwood, and pine. I start off by going to my buddy's house, Under the Water Woodworks, because he's got all the good woodworking machines that I don't have. So here I am using the joiner. I'm going to get one side perfectly flat, then bring it back to my shop, put it on my table saw, and cut them all to the exact same dimensions. Once they're all the same size, I line 9 of them up together. Now I'm doing 9 because that is the thickness that I want in my end sculpture. So I line 9 up. I cut them all at different lengths so that way I have a random pattern when I do the final glue up of all these boards. And then take my 9 slats and I glue them up individually. I'm gonna have to do 20 of these individual glue ups, which I really breezed by it in this video, but this took a solid week to do. And here you can see all the random lengths that I cut. You don't want to cut them all the same length because then you won't have any variation when you make the end sculpture. So it's always good to have plenty of variation. I then head back over to Under the Water Woodworks to use his planer, and I get everything perfectly flat, level, and smooth. Now I'm going to play around with the orientation of these pieces, making sure that I don't have a lot of the same heights in one area. I really want to mix it around and spread them out. And then it's on to the final glue up, and I'm using epoxy versus wood glue because I don't want to have any wood glue squeeze out because that will show during the final pour. I then do 2 coats of penetrating epoxy, and what this will do is it'll seal in all the wood, making sure that there are not bubbles coming out of the wood when I do the final pour, because nobody likes bubbles. Off camera, I make a melamine mold with a lot of silicone on the inside and outside to make sure this thing will not leak, because I've had leaky molds in the past and it is not fun. And now we are ready for our first pour. I'm using Moss Deep Pour X. This is the best stuff you can get to do deep pours. Now I'm going to be doing them all in layers because it's hot out. When you want to pour anything deeper than 2 inches, you really need to have a cold temperature. And right now it is midsummer, it's hot. I have it inside with a fan on, and I'm still going to do this in multiple pours. So here's pour 1. This is 3 gallons of Moss Epoxy Deep Pour X. And like you saw earlier, get 10% off. Use code Blake at checkout at Moss Epoxies. Now, as you saw right there, I actually tilted the entire mold on 2x4s, and I kept stacking more and more under there because I want more epoxy on one end than the other. I also used a 4x4 and a bag here to displace more epoxy on this front side. Now, this is because my sculpture, the bear's head, is going to be much higher than the rest of his body, so I don't want to waste a ton of epoxy that I know I'm just going to have to cut off. And this mold, look at me struggle here. Look at this guy. He's about to pull something right here. Okay, I thought this would be fun. How much do you guys think this weighs? This thing is an absolute tank, and I was really struggling right there. I'm surprised I didn't pull something, but I got it done. How much do you think it weighs? You'll find out right after this. Put it down in the comments right now what you think this thing weighs. This thing is no joke right here. This thing was so heavy and awkward to carry because it's just so big. It's hard to get your arms around it, but luckily I did it without pulling something, and now here, the big reveal is I get to see how this thing looks. I was a little worried that the 4x4 in that garbage bag was just going to be implanted in there and I wasn't going to be able to get it out, but just a couple love taps just really pried it right out of there. And here it is, and I am pumped at this moment. I mean, you can see little air bubbles there on the side. That's literally just on the side walls. That was resting against the wall, those little bubbles formed, but the inside of this thing is crystal clear. Here I have the design outlined on the side, and this is going to be my reference for when I start to carve this piece. I'm not gonna lie, I am really scared of messing this thing up and breaking it. I mean, this is 3 weeks of pouring 9 gallons of epoxy. Not only is it expensive, but 3 weeks of work, and it can all go down the drain on one fracture or one bad cut. So this is extremely nerve-wracking, but the cool thing is, as you see here, the epoxy, you can see the chainsaw blade through the epoxy. You literally get to see exactly where your cut is, and it's just pretty cool. I mean, look at this. That's really, really cool. Here's what it looks like after a couple hours of using the chainsaw. As you can see, I am staying away from those lines. The last thing I want to do is cut too deep because there is no going back. I just take little chunks at a time. Here I'm taking the back leg off that obviously is the opposite leg. And here you can see after day 1, I have pretty much the outline cut out besides this middle section. This middle section was actually really difficult for me. I have the back leg behind this, so I can't cut all the way through. So basically I just have to use a bunch of different tools in order to bulk that little center point out. And then I just use here my Sawzall. I need to really thin out the head. The whole piece really has to be thinned out. And here I'm using the angle grinder. Back to the chainsaw. I threw every tool I basically have at this thing. I just need someone to make a universal chainsaw, angle grinder, die grinder, sander, all in one tool. That would be great. So if you guys find anything like that, be sure to hit me up. I will buy it. Also, if you guys have any other tools that are good carving that I'm not using or don't know about, let me know in the comments. Okay, quick interruption here, but be sure to check out the video next week where I make a custom pedestal to complement this sculpture. Man, that guy's always interrupting the build. But in all seriousness, I'm pretty pumped about that pedestal, so check it out next week. It is a lot of woodworking and fine detailed work, and I think it complements this sculpture extremely well. In the video here, I'm just kind of, again, refining the shapes. Here is about, I don't know, 5 days in. I have a rough, bare shape, and now I'm just using the angle grinder to really refine all these details. I then switched to my die grinder with an aggressive bit here to really kind of shape the jawline of the bear and the separation of the shoulder, the neck, and the head. And really there's no other tools that do this, so I gotta get in there with like some smaller ones and then sand it out later. And then it's just more and more refinement, just taking little chunks off as time goes. I don't want to do anything major, so now I'm done with the chainsaw and I'm just using tools that can only take a little bit off at a time so I don't mess anything up. And here's another really scary part for me, doing the eyes and the claws, because you only have one go at this. If you mess this up, it is permanently on there and carved in. You can't go back. So luckily I didn't mess up. Here's just little indentations of the eyes. I didn't want to do super detailed eyes or fur or anything. I want it all smooth so the epoxy can really shine and be completely see-through. Now, it's on to the part that everybody hates, especially me. I have hours upon hours of sanding. I'm going to sand this from 60 grit all the way down or up to 1000. And once I get up to about 400 grit, I'll start wet sanding. And I will wet sand from 400 to 1000, cleaning everything off in between and then re-wetting the surface and sanding. And this is the exact same process that people use on tables and furniture that are using epoxy to get it perfectly see-through and smooth. For me, this is just 10 times harder because I have to do everything by hand. There are no flat surfaces. Once the tedious sanding is complete, I get to do my favorite part of every sculpture, and that is put on the finish. Here I'm using some Odie's oil, and I'm going to coat this entire surface a couple of times and buff it out. Oh, it's hot in here. Okay, before we get into the big reveal, I just want to say that every subscription and like and comment helps me out. I make these videos for you guys, and I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscription button, turn on the notifications, and just give me a thumbs up or a simple comment. It helps me out, and it helps me continue to make these videos for you guys. All right, let's get right back into the big reveal. I am beyond thrilled with how this thing turned out. It went better than I ever could have imagined. I'm happy, the client's happy. I am so pumped to add this to my portfolio. I hope I get to do something like this again. If you or anyone you know want a custom sculpture like this, be sure to reach out. Send me a message or email through my website and we can make it happen. I'm Blake from BM Sculptures. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and until next time or next week where you watch this pedestal build, goodbye.